Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us on another Xtrail Running Forum interview, which is sponsored by runners.pt. Our guest tonight is one of the top ultramarathoners in the world, Ryan Sands. Hello, Ryan. How are you?
Hey, yeah, great to be on the show, and yeah, doing really well, thanks.
Great. Thanks for joining us. So we'll get right into it. So the last
Cool.
race you had was a few weeks ago at the UTMB. We're going
Yeah,
to talk about the UTMB in just a second. But how was your training leading up to UTMB?
yeah, the training building up to UTMB, I was had a really good training block. Probably after the Great Himalaya Trail, I did take a lot of time off, and it did take me a while to bounce back. But the few weeks leading up to UTMB, I was feeling really good and really confident. But I guess for 100 miles, I need a lot to go right on the race day, and unfortunately, that didn't happen.
Right, right. Yeah, unfortunately, as so many others did, especially the favorites, you weren't able to finish the race. Can you kind
Yeah.
of give us a little bit of a race recap, like what happened up until the point that you dropped out?
Yeah, so basically, I was spent a bit of time beforehand in Chamonix or around the area, and I did a lot of training with poles, and I think I did quite a bit of like interval stuff with poles just to try and kind of sharpen up a little bit after the Himalayas. I felt like there were a lot of cobwebs around, and I think basically my left shoulder is a bit weaker than my right shoulder, so I ended up causing like a massive twist in my upper body, which went down into my right hip. So kind of going into the race after about 50 Ks, my lower back started to get really tight, which was okay. But then it went into my hip flexor on the downhills, and just made it impossible to run with my right leg, just being completely twisted up. And yeah, I kept trying to go, but yeah, I was kind of reduced to almost running sideways for the last kilometer. I did contemplate whether to keep going to Courmayeur, but yeah, I realized that it was kind of quite a remote stretch through the night. So yeah, it just wasn't, unfortunately, wasn't happening, and really disappointing for me. Like I said, I did feel like I had a really good block of training going into the race.
Yeah, it's that's the crazy thing about this sport. You can train, 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 and on the day, literally anything could happen.
No,
Um,
exactly.
had anything like that happen to you before? That with the problem that you had with your shoulder and your hip flexor, had you had that problem ever in the past?
No, not really. I think a lot of it was caused from using poles, and like I use the poles a lot in the Himalayas, and I've used them before. But yeah, I guess kind of doing the intervals is probably using them with a lot more intensity. And I also did figure out kind of power hiking with the poles. I think I yeah don't ski or come from that background, so it's been a little bit of a learning curve for me. And I definitely think I've figured out how to use the poles more efficiently, or kind of get more strength and drive through them. But I think by doing that, maybe now I'm kind of putting more strain through my shoulder. So yeah, I'm currently doing a lot of strength work and just trying to sort out the imbalance and just make sure kind of my that doesn't happen again.
Right. That's actually really good advice. Is that just not to pick up poles and think that you're gonna do well with them. You really need to practice with the poles and be ready to use them. Okay, great. So now, unfortunately, you did have to DNF. How do
Yes.
you deal with that? How do you deal with that psychologically? Because being one of the favorites, how do you deal with that psychologically?
Yeah, it's always yeah, never a nice thing, and something kind of yeah, I guess any athlete doesn't want to do. I think for me, I was feeling really good up until that point, so it makes it even a bit more disappointing. But at the same time, I've realized I've kind of been doing ultra marathons for 11 or 12 years now. I've been doing it for a while, and realize you're going to have those ups and downs. It's kind of pointless beating yourself up too much. I think it's important just to kind of figure out what went wrong and not overthink it, and move forward. And yeah, I think for me, luckily, I have figured out what went wrong, and just kind of trying to move forward, and I guess also focus on new goals and challenges. I guess at the same time, it's also important not just to jump into something new. It's you kind of have to process it all and kind of yeah, it definitely was a big setback. Not kind of delving too much on the past or getting kind of caught too much up in the fact that it was a major disappointment.
Gotcha, gotcha. It was this UTMB. It'll definitely be remembered for the year of the DNF. It
Yeah,
was unreal how many, because I actually followed it online, and it was unbelievable how many of the favorites were dropping. And it was interesting. It wasn't a bad weather year. It wasn't like 2 years ago. Last year's where it rained quite a bit. It's just, I guess, it's just one of those things, just coincidence.
yeah. I
Okay,
think it.
great. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say. I think it's a race where obviously having so many elites there, I think guys just go out so fast, and in order to do well there, you got to take chances. So I guess it's like throwing 20 eggs against the wall. They're always going to be four or five that don't break. I think this year there were just a lot more eggs that broke when they were thrown against the wall.
Right, 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 right. Well, that's an interesting, interesting way of looking at it. Okay, great. Okay, so now let's talk about a happier event for you, I would imagine.
Yeah,
Something that went much better for you, which was the Grand Himalayan Trail. You actually in March, Ryan and Andrew Porter actually set the fastest known time on the Grand Himalayan Trail. You did 1,400 kilometers in 28 days and 13 hours. What was it like? I mean, tell us about the experience.
yeah. It was. Yeah, I guess for Rainer and I, it's been a dream for a while to be able to head out to the Himalayas and to run the trail and yeah, putting it together was a crazy amount of logistics and admin and obviously training as well, but yeah, it was really a really epic and an amazing experience. But I guess at the same time, yeah, it was pretty gnarly at times. For me, it was definitely the biggest kind of adventure I've ever had in my life, and probably the biggest adventure I ever will have. Like, I don't think there's yeah, I think it's going to be pretty impossible to top that. Yeah, I guess just on a daily basis, just there being so many variables and unknowns and just kind of having to deal with those was pretty wild and out there at times. But at the same time, obviously, running in the Himalayas was just really incredible. And it's kind of, yeah, I guess it's, yeah, kind of being able to experience that was a once in a lifetime opportunity and experience.
Yeah, I was going to ask you why that FKT, and I think you kind of answered it, and I think it's pretty obvious. I mean, it's the Himalayas. um,
Yeah.
okay, great. All right. So you've obviously a very experienced. Oh, I'm sorry. I want to go back. You did this FKT, and it seems like a lot of runners are focusing a lot on FKTs. It seems to have become quite popular to do FKTs. Or do you see yourself trying any other FKTs in the future?
Yeah, for sure. That I think they definitely appeal to me, and I guess for me, I got into trail running because I love the adventure aspect, and for me, FKTs definitely bring that like real like adventure aspect and just kind of getting out there and exploring places that you probably wouldn't normally go to on a kind of normal basis. So yeah, I definitely would like to do some more FKT projects and kind of, I guess it doesn't always have to be an FKT. It's just kind of being able to get out there and run in cool and remote areas. I love racing, but I guess after having done it for so long, there are kind of less and less races that appeal to me now. And yeah, I guess like in a race there's often like a lot of certainties, where in a FKT there's a lot more planning that goes into it, and also I guess a lot of uncertainties, and kind of a lot of the time you don't know if you can actually even kind of run that distance or complete the route. So I guess that always makes it so much more exciting and rewarding.
Yeah, and the fact that you were able to do it with someone else, with Andrew, I'd imagine the bonding experience just must be just absolutely. I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah, we being able to do the FKT with Reno. We had done previous FKT in the Drakensberg Mountains a few years back, and yeah, he's become a really good friend of mine, and it's been cool to do some really cool FKT projects, and also at the same time just kind of head out into the mountains and do some exploring and have a good time.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, it's nice to just enjoy the love of running for the joy of running, not so much that pressure of just that 1 day race.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
we actually have a question from Barbara Fernandez. Barbara Fernandez. She wants to know what was the best memory or the most memorable moment from the Himalayas, and what was the worst moment from the Himalayas?
She's the best memory. I guess would definitely be. We were kind of really battling to find accommodation the one night, and it was starting to get dark, and we actually went into a monastery, and this family took us in, and yeah, it was just like really incredible. They like took us down into the basement where they were living, and yeah, kind of we couldn't or communicate really at all. We didn't speak Nepalese, and they didn't speak any English. But this guy took us down into his basement and opened the door, and all this kind of smoke poured out because they kind of had a fire going in there, and yeah, he invited us in, and yeah, we sat, and he gave us dinner, and his wife and two kids were there, and just yeah, I guess yeah, it was just a really surreal experience. It's hard to explain it, but yeah, it was just kind of I guess one of the highlights for me, and they let us stay there the night, and the next day we kind of kept on going, but I think that was really cool. The Annapurna region, yeah, also just we got like really good conditions, kind of high up there, and I really enjoyed a few days there, and then kind of I guess kind of low lights. Towards the end of the project, we got chased by some guys one night, which was pretty scary and hair raising, and kind of yeah, I guess you just kind of feel pretty like kind of out there and helpless. And then I guess for me in some of the early stages with the kind of thick ice and snow, we had to do some kind of pretty sketchy kind of cruising along kind of cliff edges and stuff, and it was really icy. And at times going over some of the passes when it was really snowed in and quite icy. I guess for me that was quite hair raising. Reno is a lot more experienced in bigger mountain conditions and kind of snow and ice, where kind of for me I hadn't done too much of that. So I guess that was kind of yeah a bit sketchy and kind of stands out as a little bit of a low point.
Gotcha. It's interesting that your high point and your low point kind of show the good of humanity and the bad of humanity. Where your great point was spending this time with his family, and the low point was being chased by men. So it's kind of
Yeah.
interesting and ironic. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
for sure. I think just like on that, I think for me probably another highlight was just the people in Nepal, just how welcoming they were. Like basically, we were very reliant on kind of like locals taking us in and letting them stay with us. I think obviously when we got chased was one like isolated
Right,
incident, which was unfortunate. But yeah, I definitely kind of don't think it's a true reflection of kind of our experience in Nepal.
right, right. Now, did you? I would imagine you used a crew for this, right?
Yeah, it was kind of Arena and myself, and then we had a film crew of two guys from the African Attachment that were, or sorry, from Wandering Fever Productions. They were filming, but we did a lot of self filming, and they kind of would only meet up with us every 5 to 6 days, depending on how long it took them to drive around or hike in. So that took that was kind of our main crew, and then also we did have a few drop bags along the way. Again, generally where our film crew would meet up with us, we had a drop bag, so we had a local logistics company, Himalayan Trails, that kind of helped us. With that, which again was a major help just to kind of get fresh pair of clothes, etc. and extra gear if need be.
Okay, great, awesome. Okay, we actually have a question from Stamina Trail Runners. They like to
Okay.
know what do you think is the biggest requirement to become an ultra distance runner?
The biggest requirement, I think it's like a lot of things, but I think it's important to be patient. I think a lot of people just kind of start running and kind of everyone wants to run 100 mile and guys kind of jump straight into 100 miles. Where I guess you got to build up slowly, and also I guess when you're up there running 100 miles to respect your body, and I guess also, well, I'd say probably that's more important, to actually be really in tune with your body and to listen with your body and to understand it and realize that like maybe running 100 mile every year or every 2 years is kind of all that you can do, and not to try and force it, and have that respect. And I guess a lot of guys, and I've made the same mistake as well, you kind of do too much and end up getting like a bit burnt out, and then it takes a really long time to dig yourself out of the hole. So yeah, I think it's important to have that understanding and to really stay in tune with your body.
Okay, awesome. Great advice. Just to
Thanks.
remind everyone, you can ask questions. You can ask Ryan questions via Facebook. They'll show up, and we'll ask Ryan any questions that you may have or comments. And also, I just want to remind that we are sponsored by runners.pt. Okay, Ryan.
Cool.
Now, I mean, your resume of races, your CV of races is enormous, and you've done many unbelievable races like Western States, UTMB, the Grand Himalayan Trail, Ultra Trail Cape Town. I can go on and on and on. What was your most memorable or favorite race? And what I mean is, it doesn't necessarily need to be like your favorite, like the one that you did the best in. But what's a
Yeah.
race that you really like, that you really enjoy doing, or that you enjoy doing?
Yeah, I guess Western States is definitely the one race that stands out for me. It's just a race that's really always appealed to me. And yeah, I guess I've had some really good experiences there and some bad ones. So the last time I was there last year, I had a really amazing experience, and to finally like achieve a dream and such a big goal of mine to win that was really surreal and amazing. So I think that's a race that really stands out to me. And I remember like when I wrote my book and kind of running through a whole bunch of different things a few years ago. For me, it was actually kind of the smaller things that stand out. I did a race, like it was a 4 kilometer canine search and rescue dog race with my dog, T Dog or Tandy, and for me, just running that race and just kind of finishing with her kind of definitely stands out as one of the coolest things I've done, or one of the best experiences I've done. So I guess yeah, for me, I guess it's both like a race like Western States, but then also just something so small and unique, like running a kind of a much, yeah, a really kind of low key kind of 4K race with your dog is something for me that's just like really important and special.
Yeah, I train with my dog all the time, so
Cool.
I think
Awesome.
I would love that. Do you run a lot with does your dog run a lot with you?
Yeah, we used to run a lot together. She's getting a little bit older now, so she's 10, nearly 11. So kind of do some shorter runs with her, and it's more kind of yeah, kind of hikes now. Yeah, she enjoys doing a bit more sleeping now.
That's awesome. My dog's about 2.5, and
Oh, cool, awesome.
so he does quite a bit of running with me. But I'm telling you, I think he motivates me. I think he's my biggest motivator. Just to see the joy that
No,
he has
exactly.
on the trails is just, it brings a smile to my face every time.
No, for sure, it's really awesome.
Okay, awesome. We do have a question. We have a couple of questions. One is from Marisa Silva. She would like to know, how long did it take you to start running ultra distances? So from the time you started, first of all, actually, let's go. How did you get involved? How did you start ultra running? And then how long did it take you to build up to, let's say, 100 miles?
Yeah, geez, yeah. For me, I never grew up wanting to be an ultra runner or kind of run. It was my last year at university that I had a whole bunch of friends doing a out of town half marathon, and I actually wanted to join them and head up and do the event. But unfortunately, I left entering very late, so I actually had to enter the marathon and ran the marathon. Actually, really enjoyed it, and I guess just the fulfillment of completing a challenge like that. And yeah, before I knew it, I was doing a couple of shorter trail races, like 20, 30 kilometer races, and then I decided to enter the Gobi Desert Race, the Planet Gobi Desert Race back in 2008, and that was kind of my first ultra and
Wow.
first experience. And yeah, I guess I was a kind of real newcomer to it, but yeah, I guess the bug bit there, and before I knew it, I was kind of doing a number of them a year. Yeah, I guess my first 100 miler was the Leadville 100 miler, so that was only in 2011. So I did a couple of kind of multi-day events first, and a couple of 50 milers first to kind of build up to something like Leadville.
Yeah, but you pretty much jumped in with 2 feet first. I mean, you you jumped. I mean,
Yes.
to go to the Gobi Desert, you that's pretty big race to do it for your first one.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
no, definitely, yeah, definitely. I guess at times leading up to that race and all the training I had to do, I definitely did think I'd bitten off a bit more than I could chew. But yeah, I guess if you're smart with your training, I guess you can get into to ultras quite quickly. And like I said, if you listen to your body and kind of do push a bit to do a big ultra, then I think it's just important to make sure you fully recover afterwards. I think for an ultra you don't want to be lazy, but I don't think you need to like do as much training as a lot of people do, especially if you're just looking to finish. And yeah.
okay, so we have a question now from Pedro Miguel. He's saying, "Hello, Ryan. Do you share many of your adventures with your little ones? And do we have some future champions?"
Yeah, my son Max, yeah, he's turning two next week, so he's still quite young, but yeah, I definitely try and get out into the outdoors with him, and he really enjoys it. So yeah, looking forward to sharing more experiences with him, especially the older he gets. Yeah, I guess I'll never kind of push him to compete if he doesn't wanna compete. Currently, it looks like he's going to be a musician. Yeah, he loves kind of anything to do with music or musical instruments. So yeah, it's cool just to kind of watch him grow, but take him into the outdoors and kind of seeing his reaction and his first impressions of the outdoors is really rewarding. I think it's like the same as you said when you kind of go for a run with your dog and you just kind of see how stoked they are and just kind of that pure joy. Being able to see that in Max is really cool as well and really kind of inspiring for me.
That's awesome. That's great. And
Cool.
he's lucky. He's very lucky to be able to. Both of you are lucky to be able to share
Uh,
that.
Thanks. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So we're gonna move back a little bit into racing. Is there a race that you haven't run yet that you're really looking forward to?
Yeah, I guess there are not too many races that I haven't done. I guess a race that comes to mind would be Hard Rock. It's a race. If I did get in, I'd love to do it. Just having done Western States and Leadville, it would be great to run a race like Hard Rock. But obviously with the lottery, it's really challenging to get in. So I guess that's kind of the one big one that stands out that I'd love to still do.
Even for elites, it's that difficult because I know it's very difficult to get into Hard Rock. I mean, there's people that wait 10, 11 years to get in, but even
Yeah,
for it's that difficult to get in.
yeah, no. I know they've got 3 or 4 entries that Dale, the race directory, has for kind of his special considerations, but that's not always given to elites. That can be kind of it's up to his discretion. So yeah, no, it's they don't kind of have any kind of easy or there is no kind of entry process for elites. You kind of got to jump in the lottery with everyone else, which I think in a way is pretty cool. But I guess it makes it that much more kind of rewarding when you do get into the race or if you do get into the race.
Okay, great. We also have a few more questions. We have one from Hugo Duarte. Now, we already talked about the places that your favorite places to race, which we talked about Western States and so forth. But what's your favorite place to run? I think I know the answer, but what's your favorite place to run?
Favorite place to run? Yeah, I'd say I'm probably a bit biased, but I think at home in Cape Town, just being on Table Mountain is really awesome. But yeah, I guess somewhere like Chile, I've just had really amazing experiences there in the Atacama Desert, and then also in the Torres del Paine in Patagonia. So I guess yeah, Chile would stand out. Yeah, and then also even being in Madeira Island earlier this year, it was really kind of really enjoyed or kind of my experience there.
Now, did you just train there, or did you run the ultra trail?
No, just did some training with the Salomon team, Salomon running team. But yeah, I just got back from the Greater Malaya Trail, so my legs were still quite destroyed, so I didn't do too much running. But yeah, it is a place I'd love to come back to and possibly do the ultra trail there one day.
Okay. All right. Um, okay, great. We do have a question here from Miguel Ferreira. First, he says, hello, Ryan.
Hey.
What was your, okay, I guess he means overall, like in your races, what was the ultimate low? Like, what was your worst experience in a race?
Um, yeah, I guess me when I dropped out of UTMB, it was in 2015. Just I went through a really rough patch, and I picked up glandular fever or mononucleosis, which was basically I just had a crazy 2014 where I just did way too many races and projects, and I guess thought I was invincible for a patch, and kind of suffered the consequences the year after. So I think that was a real low point for me, and I kind of just stopped enjoying running, and kind of I've always said to myself, the day I stop enjoying running, then there's no point doing it. So that was like a really tough period, and I think when I kind of just didn't give myself like any races to commit to or any specific goals, and just like went back to running for the pure enjoyment. That definitely I kind of felt a lot better again, and was in a much better headspace.
Okay, great.
Cool.
And stamina runners actually has an interesting question. I am Portuguese, but I'm from the United States. I lived
Okay.
there most of my life.
Okay.
How do you think European races compare to U.S. races or the U.S. scene?
Yeah, I think there's a big difference in the races. Um, I guess kind of the race scene in like I guess in Europe it's probably a lot more commercial, and I guess I wouldn't say guys are more passionate about it, but you definitely get a lot more kind of spectators on the course, and definitely feels a lot more like the Tour de France, where I guess the US is a lot more core. Um, but at the same time, I think guys are just as passionate about the sport, and the communities there are really phenomenal. I think like a race like Western States, and I'm really hoping I go back there next year. Just the community there around the race is just like, for me, it's just incredible, and just I guess it's I find it a lot more kind of personal. They're a lot more kind of I have a lot more, those kind of personal interactions with some of the races, where like a race like UTMB, the crowd atmosphere is really electric and phenomenal. But I guess it's a lot bigger, and kind of at times probably not as personal. But I guess I enjoy both those two types of experiences, and it's really cool to be able to get to race in Europe and in the US.
Right. And with Western states, I mean, the tradition. I mean, it's like 40 some years that they've been putting on the Western states. It's really the first 100 miler. So I think the tradition also with Western states specifically, and also it's the requirements. UTMB, you have to take waterproof, all the required material that you need to
Yes.
take for the race. Where I've Western states, you see people running with a water bottle, and that's basically it. so,
Yeah,
so
no, it's Yeah, it definitely is very different, and obviously in America, a lot of the races you're allowed to have paces for as well, whereas
Yeah, that's another thing.
a lot of the European races, yeah, they're not too many where you're actually allowed to have paces. So yeah, it's very different, and I think it's nice to have a mixture of a bit of everything.
Okay. How do you feel about Pacers? Do you think it's a good thing, or do you prefer races with or without, or you're indifferent?
I don't mind. Like I think for the last time I ran Western States, Rainer actually paced me. Rainer ran the Greater Malaya Trail with, and it was more for like a smaller section towards the end of the race. I opted not to have a pacer from the start where you're allowed to have paces. I kind of enjoy kind of being in my own headspace, but I think it is nice to have company. But for me, I'm pretty flexible. Like if you're allowed to have paces, cool. If not, then so be it. I think it's yeah, I think it's important just to be able to adapt according to the rules.
Okay. All right, great. Now, in South Africa, which by the way, I was actually born in Rhodesia, which
Okay,
isn't South
which is
Africa,
a
but it's
little bit
Bulawayo, Rhodesia. So I do have
yes.
a little bit of a connection to the south of
Cool.
Africa, but I left when I was very, very, very young.
Okay.
But in South Africa, there seems to be, I mean, a tradition of ultra running with the Ultra Trail Cape Town, the Otter Trail Run, and the Comrades Marathon.
Yes.
Um, how popular though is trail running in South Africa?
Yeah, trail running's like grown massively
Ultra
over.
running.
Yeah, I think like yeah, I definitely like obviously having races like Comrades and Two Oceans, ultra running and endurance events are pretty ingrained in like South African culture. And then with trail running becoming so popular now, yeah, it's growing. I'd say up until about 2 years ago, it was more kind of the 20 to 30 kilometer races, that trail races that were more popular. And then kind of with races like the Sky Run, which is a 100 kilometer run in the Drakensberg that's been going for a long time, and races like the Adder and the Puffer. Um, these are quite like iconic races, and that they've been going for a while. And definitely like more and more people have moved up to ultra distance races. And then yeah, more recently with the Ultra Trail Cape Town, which is quite a new race, but I definitely say over the last year or two, it's probably grown into the biggest trail race, and attracts a really large international field, which is great. I think that's really started to put kind of ultra distance trail running on the map in South Africa. So yeah, it's like growing, and as I said, I've definitely seen a lot more people now kind of going from 35 kilometer trail races into kind of the 60 kilometer or the 100 kilometer races, which is cool to see.
All right, great. All right. Just a reminder, you can ask any questions of Ryan or make any comments. But we have a question from Paul Walsh. He would like to know, what's your next big challenge?
Next big challenge, kind of from a racing point of view, I'm going to be running Ultra Trail Cape Town in December. Just it's in yeah, kind of in my back garden, and it's a race I'm really passionate about, and actually only ran it for the first time last year, but yeah, really enjoyed the experience. And then after that, yeah, looking at doing a project, a running project along the Skeleton Coast in Namibia later next year, and hopefully also get to run Western States as well. So kind of yeah, still planning for next year, but definitely got a few things in the pipeline.
Okay. All right. I think we've come to the end of our program. If you could just hold on 1 second, Ryan.
Sure.
One log off just for a second. Okay. Thank you so much, Ryan. And thank you to all our online audience and everyone who had comments. We really appreciate it. Just a reminder to visit our forum, which is Xtrail Running Forum, and also visit runners.pt. Thank you so much, Ryan. Thank you to
Uh,
everyone. And we'll see you
Thanks for
next
having me
time.
on the show.
You're more than welcome. Thank you. It was a pleasure and an honor. Okay, if
Cool.
you could just hold on
Cheers.
for a second. Thank you.